Have you ever left a meeting thinking, hang on a minute, did I imagine that conversation? Or maybe you raised a legitimate concern about a project, only to be told you're being emotional or you're being difficult. If you constantly feel like you have to record every conversation to prove that you're sane, you might not be the problem. You might be experiencing workplace gaslighting, which is something that many of you have drawn my attention to in the comments to my videos. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 subtle signs of gaslighting at work and exactly what to say to shut them down so you don't lose your cool. The most dangerous thing about gaslighting is it attacks your confidence. It's a psychological tactic designed to make you doubt your memory, your perception, and your sanity. If you recognise any of these 5 next signs, it's time to protect yourself. If you're new here, my name's Lucy, and on my channel, I try to turn my 35 years of workplace experiences into useful information to help you not only survive, but also thrive in the workplace. I'm so glad you're here. Sign 1, the history rewrite. You agree on a deadline or a strategy in a meeting. You go away and do the work. Then your boss or your colleague turns round and says, I never said that. I told you to do X. Why aren't you listening? It makes you doubt your listening skills and your memory. You start apologising for mistakes you didn't make. The script you can use is not to argue about memory, use facts. You can say something like, I'm relying on my notes from our Tuesday meeting when we agreed on X. Let me forward that summary to you so we can get back on the same page. You aren't getting emotional, you're getting factual, and you are signalling, I keep records. Sign 2, the overreaction label. You point out a risk, a rude comment, or an unfair workload. Instead of addressing the issue, your colleague or your boss addresses you. They say, you're being too sensitive. Can't you take a joke? Or you're making a big deal out of nothing. What they're doing is shifting the focus from their bad behaviour to your performance. And what this can result in, and many people have shared this, you stop speaking up because you don't want to be difficult. The script to use here, ignore the label and re-anchor to the impact. You can say something like this, my reaction isn't the issue here. The issue is how this impacts on the project's timeline. Let's focus on solving that. This works because you refuse to defend your feelings, which is what they want, and you force them back to the business problem. Sign number 3, the moving goalposts. You work hard to meet a target. You deliver the piece of work and they look at it and they say, well, this isn't what I wanted. You've missed X requirement. And that's the first time X requirement has been mentioned. It keeps you in a state of constant failure. You work harder and harder on the hamster wheel, chasing an approval that you're never going to get. The script, pause, do not apologise, and say something like, I delivered this based on the brief we agreed to on Monday. If the requirements have changed, we need to reset the deadline to accommodate this new scope. You are professionally calling out that they changed the plan. It's not that you failed to deliver. Sign number 4, the silent treatment or withholding information. Decisions are made in meetings you weren't invited to. You're left out of email chains. Then when you miss something, they say, why haven't you handled this? Why have you missed this? It isolates you and it makes you look incompetent to other people. In the script, and this might be hard, assume positive intent, even if you don't believe it, and say something like this. I wasn't included in the meeting where that decision was made. For me to do my job effectively, I need to be on that invite list. Please ensure I'm added for next time. This works because it frames their exclusion of you from this decision making as a blocker to business success. It doesn't dwell on your personal feelings. Sign number 5, the public undermining. In a team meeting, they make a subtle dig at you. Maybe they roll their eyes when you speak. Maybe they say something like, "Oh, Lucy's finally catching up," followed by a chuckle. If you confront them, they say, "Goodness, no one has a sense of humour anymore." This behaviour humiliates you publicly while giving them plausible deniability. A script to tackle this is a neutral clarification. Pause, look them in the eye and say, "Could you explain what you meant by that comment?" Gaslighters hate having to explain their jokes. It forces them to either double down and look like a bully or backtrack. If you recognised yourself in any of these scenarios, you are not alone. The comments to my videos tell me that. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. Gaslighting is a control tactic. The moment you start using these scripts calmly, professionally, and factually, you stop being a source of drama for them to feed on, and you start being a person who keeps receipts. It takes courage to hold your ground, but you can do it. In my 30 years of leading teams, I've seen the difference between a manager just being disorganised and one that's a gaslighter. A disorganised manager says, "Oops, I forgot to tell you that. I forgot to mention that." A gaslighter says, "We never agreed on that. Why are you making things up?" Do you see the difference? One admits a mistake, the other attacks your reality. If you're wondering if your boss has crossed the line from difficult to toxic, I have a full playlist of surviving toxic workplaces, which I'll link to right here. Here's to being happy at work and happy in life. Thank you for watching and see you next time.